King Von. Davon Bennett wasn't just rapping about Chicago's street wars, he was documenting them. He was so authentic in his drill music that police used his lyrics as evidence in murder investigations. Then he died exactly how his songs predicted. Growing up in O'Block, one of Chicago's most dangerous neighborhoods, Von learned early that violence was the only way to earn respect. His music videos were like war correspondence reports from an ongoing conflict. His arrest record read like a career criminal's resume: felon in possession of a firearm, criminal intent to commit murder. The charges were serious enough to put him away for decades, but they got dropped, giving him a second chance that most street soldiers never receive. November 6, 2020, proved that Von's music wasn't just storytelling, it was prophecy. Shot and killed outside an Atlanta nightclub in the exact type of confrontation he'd described in countless songs. The drill music that made him famous also predicted his death with eerie accuracy. Von's storytelling ability made him drill's most compelling voice, but his authenticity also made him a target. When your songs are detailed confessions of real street activities, enemies know exactly where to find you and what you've done to their friends. His death sparked federal murder-for-hire charges against 5 associates in 2024, proving that his killing created cycles of retaliation that continued years later. King Von lived by the drill code and died by it too. Suge Knight. Suge Knight built Death Row Records through intimidation and violence, then killed someone with his truck in broad daylight and got 28 years for it. Marion Knight operated a criminal organization that used music as a front for extortion, violence, and intimidation. Death Row Records made millions, but its business model was based on fear rather than talent development. The 2015 Compton incident was vintage Suge, a confrontation that escalated to vehicular homicide when he ran over 2 men, killing Terry Carter. For someone with Suge's reputation, using a truck as a weapon wasn't shocking. It was predictable. Suge's real danger was his business philosophy. He believed that fear was more valuable than contracts, that intimidation worked better than negotiation. Stories of death row meetings involving assault, threats, and actual violence became industry legend. Artists signed deals not because they wanted to, but because they were afraid of what would happen if they didn't. The 28-year sentence effectively ended his reign as hip-hop's most feared executive, but his legacy as someone who turned music into organized crime remains intact. Death Row's success proved that in 1990s hip-hop, violence was just another business tool. Suge Knight represented everything dangerous about hip-hop's intersection with street culture. Money, power, and violence combined into an unstoppable force that eventually destroyed itself. Tupac Shakur. Tupac built his reputation on surviving a 1994 shooting, only to be gunned down in a 1996 Vegas drive-by, a case that remains one of hip-hop's greatest unsolved mysteries. Born into Black Panther royalty, Tupac Shakur was destined for revolution. His mother, Afeni, was a Panther leader, and that militant DNA flowed through his veins. But when he hit the streets as a rapper, that political fire mixed with real street beef in deadly ways. The danger started early. In 1994, he was convicted of sexual abuse and served time, but that was nothing compared to what came next. The East Coast-West Coast war wasn't just rap beef, it was real bullets and real bodies. Tupac threw himself into the middle of it all, calling out Biggie and Bad Boy Records with vicious diss tracks that crossed lines no one had crossed before. Then came November 1994, 5 bullets in a New York recording studio lobby. Most rappers would have backed down. Tupac came back harder, convinced his enemies had tried to kill him. September 7, 1996 changed everything. After a Mike Tyson fight in Vegas, Tupac was gunned down in a drive-by, a news that shook the entire industry. 27 years later, they finally arrested someone, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. But this case still haunts hip-hop. Many argue that Tupac's death had become the blueprint for the dangerous rapper, an artist whose verses felt less like entertainment and more like prophecy. His music predicted his own death so accurately it still gives people chills. The notorious Biggie was so dangerous that his own success got him killed. He was shot down in LA just when he was about to rule hip-hop forever. Christopher Wallace went from dealing crack on Fulton Street to becoming Brooklyn's king, but unfortunately, he never escaped the streets that made him. Big Papa wasn't just a rapper. He was the East Coast's answer to West Coast dominance, and that made him a target. The beef with Tupac wasn't just any drama, it was real hatred that split hip-hop down the middle. When Pac got shot in the 94, he blamed Biggie, and suddenly 2 friends became mortal enemies. Biggie's rhymes got personal, cold-blooded. Who Shot You wasn't just a song, it was psychological warfare set to a beat. But Biggie's real danger was his influence. He made being a hustler sound glamorous, turned drug dealing into poetry. Kids in Brooklyn started moving weight trying to live like Big Papa. March 9, 1997 changed everything. After a party in LA, Biggie was gunned down at a red light, 4 bullets through his passenger door. The timing was perfect revenge, 6 months after Tupac's death. 26 years later, his murder remains officially unsolved, with theories pointing to corrupt cops, gang retaliation, and music industry conspiracies. Biggie died at 24, but his death proved that in hip-hop, being the king just paints a bigger target on your back. The crown was too heavy, and the game too deadly. 50 Cent. the man who took 9 bullets to the body and turned his near-death experience into the ultimate hustler's comeback story. 50 Cent. Curtis Jackson was moving weight in Queens when most kids were worried about homework. The streets of South Jamaica taught him that respect came through fear, and fear came through violence. He wasn't just selling drugs, he was building an empire that put him on someone's hit list. May 24th, 2000 changed everything. 9 shots fired, 9 bullets hit. Hand, arm, hip, legs, chest, and face. Most people would have taken that as a sign to find a new career. Curtis took it as a sign that he was destined for something bigger. He spent months recovering, plotting his return, turning his survival story into his greatest asset. The attempted murder wasn't just random, it was well calculated. Someone wanted Curtis dead badly enough to pump so many bullets into him in broad daylight, but they failed, and that failure created a monster. 50 Cent emerged from those hospital beds with something most rappers fake. Genuine street credibility written in scar tissue. Get Rich or Die Trying wasn't just an album title, it was his actual life story. The bullet scars became his trademark, proof that he'd survived what killed lesser men. His music videos flashed x-rays of bullets still lodged in his body. He turned attempted murder into marketing genius. 50 transformed from potential victim to untouchable mogul, proving that sometimes the best revenge is living well enough to buy your enemies' houses. The streets couldn't kill him, so they made him a legend instead. Gucci Mane. Gucci Mane caught a body in 2005, beat the murder charge, and turned all of his legal confrontations into trap music's origin story. Radrick Davis grew up in Atlanta's Zone 6, where trap houses outnumbered corner stores and survival meant staying strapped. The murder case came in 2005 after a house party went wrong. Prosecutors said Gucci killed someone, but couldn't prove it. The charges got dropped, but the streets knew what happened. Gucci's reputation shifted from trap rapper to someone who'd actually caught a body and walked away clean. His legal troubles became a revolving door. Drug arrests, weapons charges, assault cases. Each arrest just added to his legend. Fans started expecting him to get locked up. It was part of the Gucci Mane experience. He dropped mixtapes from county jail, turned probation violations into promotional campaigns. The federal case in 2014 was different. Gun possession by a felon meant real time. 2 years in federal prison should have ended careers, but Gucci came out transformed. Gone was the lean, addicted wild man, replaced by a sober businessman who had learned to weaponize his dangerous past. Now he's respected as trap music's godfather, mentor to a generation of artists who worship his criminal mythology. But everyone knows, cross Gucci Mane, and you're dealing with someone who's proven he'll handle problems permanently. Kodak Black. Kodak Black's rap sheet reads like a career criminal's resume. Robbery, weapons, trafficking charges, and he's still not even 30 yet. Born in Florida's projects, Duson Octave was destined for trouble. By his teens, he was already moving different, carrying himself like someone who'd seen too much too young. His music wasn't storytelling, it was confessions set to beats, real-time documentation of a young criminal's rise. The arrests started piling up between 2016 to 2019. Robbery cases, weapons charges, assault allegations across multiple states. Each mugshot became part of his brand. Fans expected him to get arrested. It proved he was keeping it real, while other rappers were just playing characters. The federal weapons case should have ended everything. Years in federal prison for a young artist at his peak. But Kodak had something most criminals don't: connections. President Trump commuted his sentence in 2021, turning him into the first rapper saved by presidential intervention. Freedom didn't teach him any lessons. By July 2022, he was back in handcuffs for oxycodone trafficking. The cycle continues because Kodak represents something dangerous, a generation of young artists who see jail time as just part of the business plan. His music hits because it's authentic, but that authenticity keeps putting him in courtrooms instead of recording studios. Some people learn from mistakes. Kodak collects them like trophies. Chief Keef. Chief Keef was 16 when he caught his first gun case and turned Chicago drill into a global movement that police blamed for real murders. Keith Cozart grew up in Chicago's Englewood, where gunshots were background music. By 16, he was already catching weapons charges, serving house arrest while his music videos went viral worldwide. I Don't Like wasn't just a song, it was a declaration of war set to haunting production that made violence sound beautiful. The music video featured real guns, real gang signs, real threats against real enemies. Police didn't see art, they saw evidence of ongoing criminal conspiracies. The arrests kept coming. More weapons charges, probation violations, assault allegations. Each case kept proving that Keef wasn't just rapping about the life. He was living it, carrying guns while his YouTube views climbed into millions. Like many believe, the danger wasn't just Keef himself, it was his influence. Drill music spread from Chicago to London to Brooklyn, inspiring a generation of young artists to document their own criminal activities on camera. Police departments started studying rap videos as evidence, treating music videos like surveillance Thugs footage. The young drill pioneer proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, it's a microphone in the wrong hands. Young Thug. Young Thug turned his record label into an alleged criminal organization, so sophisticated that the feds hit him with RICO charges, usually reserved for the mafia. According to prosecutors, YSL wasn't just Young Stoner Life Records, it was Young Slime Life, a criminal organization that used record deals to fund real street operations across the city. The 2022 indictment read like a crime novel. Prosecutors alleged YSL members were involved in shootings, drug distribution, and coordinated gang activities. They claimed Thug wasn't just a rapper, he was a criminal mastermind using his fame to direct street soldiers in a war for Atlanta's soul. The case turned rap lyrics into evidence, treating his songs like wiretapped confessions. Every bar about catching bodies, every reference to slimes and snakes, every boast about street credibility became potential proof of criminal conspiracy. The prosecution argued that Young Thug's music wasn't entertainment, it was recruitment propaganda for real gang activities. The trial continues, with Young Thug facing decades in federal prison if convicted. His case represents the ultimate test of whether artistic expression can be separated from real-world criminal allegations. The feds think they've caught hip-hop's most dangerous kingpin, but Thug's fighting like his entire legacy depends on proving them wrong. Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne took a weapons charge like a boss, served 8 months in Rikers Island, and turned his prison stint into the ultimate street credibility boost. Dwayne Carter built Young Money into hip-hop's most successful empire, but even that success couldn't protect him from his past. The New Orleans streets that raised him never let go, and eventually they caught up with him on a tour bus in 2007. The gun case was straightforward. Concealed weapon on the tour bus, guilty plea, 8 months in Rikers. Most superstars would have fought the charges, hired the best lawyers, found loopholes. Wayne took it like a soldier, accepted his time, and proved that even at hip-hop's highest levels, real ones handled their business. To Wayne, Rikers Island was 8 months of proving himself to hardened criminals who didn't care about his Grammy Awards. Wayne emerged with stories that couldn't be manufactured, respect that couldn't be bought, and street credibility that money can't purchase. The prison stint should have hurt his career. Instead, it elevated his legend. I Am Not a Human Being dropped while he was locked up, proving that Wayne's empire was so strong it could function without him. His release became a celebration, with fans and fellow artists treating him like a returning war hero. Wayne successfully proved that sometimes the best career move is accepting responsibility and doing your time like a man. The Young Money King showed that real bosses don't avoid consequences. They handle them and come back stronger than before. Meek Mill. Meek Mill's probation officer probably had more control over his career than his record label, until his case sparked a movement that changed how America sees criminal justice. Robert Williams was trapped in a system designed to keep him failing. Teenage drug and gun charges created a probation nightmare that followed him from North Philadelphia's streets to hip-hop's biggest stages. Every success became another opportunity for the system to drag him back down. The 2017 imprisonment for probation violations sparked outrage that reached the highest levels of American society. Celebrities, athletes, and activists united behind Free Meek Mill, turning his case into a symbol of everything wrong with America's criminal justice system. The danger wasn't just Meek's past crimes, it was how the system weaponized those charges to control his future. His probation officer could end his career with a single violation report. Tours got canceled, opportunities disappeared, and millions of dollars evaporated because judges treated decade-old charges like fresh wounds. But like many on this list, Meek's real power emerged after his release. He co-founded the Reform Alliance, turning his legal nightmares into a platform for systemic change. His testimony before Congress carried weight because he'd lived the problems he was describing. His transformation from defendant to reformer represents hip-hop's potential to create real social change. The system tried to break him, but the way many see it, Meek Mill broke the system instead. YG. YG built his career on authentic Compton Street narratives and blood gang affiliations so real that police spied on his music videos for evidence in gang prosecutions. Growing up in Compton during the crack epidemic's aftermath, joining the Bloods wasn't rebellion, it was a way to survive. His red bandanas and gang signs were family colors earned through years of street politics. YG early arrests for gang-related activities established credibility that money could never buy. While other rappers manufactured tough guy images, YG was posting bail and checking in with probation officers. His music videos featured real gang members throwing up real gang signs in real neighborhoods where fake wouldn't survive 5 minutes. My Crazy Life wasn't just an album title, it was documentation of authentic street experiences that most people only see in movies. YG's storytelling carried weight because listeners knew he'd lived every bar, survived every situation he described, and maintained respect in communities where respect is earned through actions, not lyrics. His political activism, including anti-Trump campaigns and police reform advocacy, proved that gang affiliation doesn't preclude social consciousness. YG shadowed evolution, maintaining street credibility while using his platform for positive change. YG proved that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can be is completely authentically yourself. NLE Choppa. NLE Choppa was just 18 when he caught felony charges that could have ended his career before it started. Bryson Potts went from Memphis high schooler to viral sensation overnight, but even fame couldn't separate him from the streets that raised him. Shotta Flow made him famous, but it also painted a target on his back, both from enemies and law enforcement who started watching his every move. The March 2021 arrest in Florida hit like a career-ending bomb: burglary, concealed firearm, marijuana, and Xanax possession. For a teenager at his career's peak, federal charges meant potential decades in prison. His claim that police planted the drugs showed either desperation or knowledge of how dirty some cops operate. NLE Choppa's real threat was his age. 18 years old with millions of followers, carrying guns and posting about it on social media. His influence on teenagers was massive, and his legal troubles sent the wrong message to kids who idolized his success without understanding the consequences. The December 2023 plea deal saved his career: probation instead of prison, reduced charges instead of federal time. But the case proved how quickly viral fame can turn into viral destruction when street habits follow you to success. His transformation toward spirituality and health consciousness after the arrest suggests someone who learned from near disaster. Drug charges dropped, reduced to misdemeanors, 1-year probation. He got the second chance most don't receive. YNW Melly. YNW Melly is facing the death penalty for allegedly killing his 2 best friends, then staging it as a drive-by shooting to collect insurance money. Jamel Demons was supposed to be the next big thing out of Florida. Murder on My Mind went viral when he was still a teenager, showcasing a young artist with serious talent and serious demons. The 2019 double murder charges shocked hip-hop. Prosecutors allege Melly shot his closest friends and collaborators, then staged their deaths as a random drive-by. If true, it represented the ultimate betrayal. The first trial ended in mistrial when jurors couldn't reach a verdict. 12 people couldn't decide if a young rapper murdered his best friends in cold blood. The evidence was strong enough to charge him, but apparently not strong enough to convince everyone of his guilt. His retrial is scheduled for September 2025, meaning Melly will spend years in jail waiting to learn if he'll spend the rest of his life there, or worse. His lawyers are fighting for bond, but judges don't usually grant bail in death penalty cases. SXXTentacion. SXXTentacion faced charges for allegedly beating his pregnant girlfriend so severely that doctors said her injuries were consistent with being hit by a baseball bat. Yase Onfroy was supposed to be hip-hop's next tortured genius, a young artist whose emotional vulnerability connected with millions of fans who felt lost and angry. But behind the music was a pattern of violence that painted a disturbing picture of who he really was. The 2016 domestic violence charges read like a horror movie: aggravated battery against a pregnant woman, false imprisonment, witness tampering. The victim's testimony described systematic abuse that went far beyond typical relationship disputes into psychological torture territory. Secret prison recordings captured X discussing the case and allegedly mocking his victim. These recordings revealed someone who seemed to view violence as entertainment, abuse as power. His June 2018 murder during a robbery ended the legal proceedings, but not the questions about his character. Charges were dropped after his death, leaving fans to wrestle with loving music made by someone accused of terrible crimes. Tentacion's case represents hip-hop's ongoing struggle with separating art from artists. His influence on young fans was massive, but so were the allegations against him. His death created a martyr, but couldn't erase the disturbing details of what he allegedly did to someone he claimed to love: Fredo Bang. Fredo Bang served 2 years for attempted murder, then built his rap career on authentic prison stories that proved he'd really lived the life. Frederick Givens didn't need to beg for street trust. He had conviction paperwork proving he'd really caught a body. Growing up in Louisiana's violent landscape, survival meant staying strapped and being willing to use whatever you carried. Fredo Bang was willing. The attempted murder conviction was the kind of charge that separates real shooters from wannabe tough guys. 2 years in Louisiana State Prison gave him stories that money couldn't buy and credibility that couldn't be faked. His 2021 arrest in Miami showed that past convictions never really go away. Louisiana parole violations caught up with him just as his career was taking off. Federal coordination proved they were watching him across state lines, turning a simple parole violation into a multi-agency operation. His music carries so much weight because listeners know he's not acting. When Fredo Bang raps about prison politics, drug smuggling operations, and street warfare, he's providing documentary evidence of experiences that shaped him. His authenticity is both his greatest asset and his biggest liability. The Louisiana streets made him dangerous, prison made him wise, and his music made him famous. But the system that created him never stops trying to drag him back. Pop Smoke. Pop Smoke posted his location on Instagram, showing stacks of cash and jewelry, then got killed in a home invasion by teenagers who used his own post to track him down. Bashar Jackson was Brooklyn Drill's golden child, charismatic, talented, and destined for superstardom. But success made him reckless, and social media made him a target. His Instagram stories became a roadmap for killers looking for an easy score. The February 19th, 2020 home invasion invasion wasn't random. It was carefully planned using information Pop Smoke provided himself. The Hollywood Hills rental house, the expensive jewelry, the cash displays, everything was documented on social media like a robbery manual for anyone paying attention. What made Pop Smoke's murder particularly shocking was the age of his killers, teenagers who saw his posts and decided to take what he was flaunting. The drill music that celebrated violence had inspired actual violence, but this time, the victim was the artist himself, not some unnamed enemy in his lyrics. The case culminated in February 2025 when Corey Walker pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter, finally bringing some closure to a case that highlighted hip-hop's dangerous relationship with social media flexing. Pop Smoke's death became a cautionary tale about the intersection of fame, social media, and street violence. His music celebrated the dangerous lifestyle that ultimately killed him, creating a tragic irony that still haunts Brooklyn drill: C-Murder. C-Murder is serving life in prison for murdering a 16-year-old boy at a nightclub, turning from platinum-selling rapper to convicted killer overnight. Corey Miller had everything: platinum albums on No Limit Records, money, fame, and the protection of being Master P's brother. But success couldn't control his temper, and one violent night destroyed everything he'd built. The 2002 shooting of Steve Thomas wasn't self-defense or accidental. Prosecutors proved Miller deliberately killed a teenager over what witnesses described as a minor confrontation. The victim was 16 years old, his whole life ahead of him, cut short by a rapper who couldn't handle disrespect. His 2003 conviction for second-degree murder came with life in prison. No possibility of parole, no appeals that worked, no celebrity status that could save him. The Louisiana justice system didn't care about his platinum plaques or famous family connections. What makes C-Murder's case particularly tragic is the waste. A successful artist with millions of fans threw his life away over something that could have been walked away from. The shooting happened in public, with witnesses, making denial impossible and conviction inevitable. Multiple appeals and retrial requests have been denied over 2 decades, proving that when you're convicted of murdering a child, the system doesn't offer many second chances. Up next, we have a rapper who swears he went down for someone else's crime. Shine caught a decade in prison for a nightclub shooting that also involved Diddy, but only the young rapper went to jail while the mogul walked free. Moses Barrow was supposed to be Bad Boy's next star. His deep voice and hardcore lyrics made him Biggie's natural successor, but one night at a Manhattan nightclub changed everything, turning promise into punishment and leaving him holding charges that could have destroyed multiple careers. The 1999 Club New York shooting involved gunfire that injured 3 people, with both Shine and Sean Combs facing serious charges. But when the verdicts came down, only the young artist got convicted, while the established mogul walked away clean. The optics were clear. Someone had to take the fall, and it wasn't going to be Diddy. Shine served nearly a decade in prison, then got deported to Belize upon release. Most rappers would have disappeared into bitterness and obscurity. Instead, he converted to Orthodox Judaism, entered politics, and eventually became a member of Belize's House of Representatives. Recent documentaries have revived his claims about being set up, with Shine alleging that Diddy abandoned him to save his own career. The timing of these revelations, coinciding with Diddy's own legal troubles, suggests old wounds that never healed. Shine's transformation from rapper to politician represents one of hip-hop's most unlikely redemption stories. His case demonstrates how loyalty in hip-hop often flows upward. Young artists take falls while established moguls protect themselves. Shine took the fall for a music mogul, but our next artist refused to betray his crew, even when it meant prison time. Bobby Shmurda. Bobby Shmurda's viral Shmoney dance made him famous, but his GS9 crew was allegedly moving drugs and bodies while the cameras were rolling. Aquili Pollard went from Brooklyn nobody to global sensation overnight when Hot exploded across social media. But behind the catchy hooks and viral dance moves was GS9, a crew that prosecutors claimed was more criminal organization than music collective. The December 2014 arrest swept up the entire crew in a conspiracy case that alleged drug dealing, weapons trafficking, and coordinated violence. Police claimed they weren't arresting rappers. They were dismantling a drug operation that used music videos as recruitment tools and album releases as money laundering opportunities. Bobby's loyalty to his crew became his downfall. He could have taken a lighter sentence, but refused to cooperate against his friends. The plea deal gave him 7 years, but his refusal to snitch earned him respect in streets and prisons across the country. His February 2021 release sparked massive celebration, with fans treating him like a returning war hero. The Free Bobby movement had worked, but his case raised serious questions about law enforcement's targeting of hip-hop crews and the use of music videos as evidence. Bobby Shmurda's story represents the dangerous intersection of viral fame and street credibility. His dance made him a star, but his loyalty to the streets made him a convict. He remains under supervision until 2026. These 20 artists represent hip-hop's most dangerous figures, not because they promoted violence, but because they lived it. Thanks for watching. Please check out more interesting videos from the cards on the screen.